Thank you very much, both of you. It was a pleasure for us, and continue it is to join you in this discussion. And it was very interesting to see like this. It was, I think, very complimentary speeches. Ken Webster um, presented to us like the big picture of the circular economy, all the difference from an waste economy to a waste as food economy, and is all designed to think all these changes of business model and the main enabler of this digital revolution. And so I think it's and and so I think it's completely inside this Congress that it's about this servitization, but enabled by IoT. So, and then Henrique present us a very wide methodology for servitization and how it can work in a very methodological and a very precisely and engineering point of view. And so it was very interesting. But as we can conclude and as we can see, it's not servitization. Servitization can be or not be circular. And what do you think? But both of them need, in the end, both of you said that it's new business model, and for servitization and for circular economy, both of them needs the mindset changing. So my question is how that we can make this mindset changing. Like you have this experience here to make this and to work with this businessman. You are also leading with this. So how we can change this mindset, and what are the main path for this changing?
I think it's a challenge, and it's not so easy. And with the experience that we have, if we don't show financial results, they don't think further. Financial results are conditioned to think a little bit more. And then the experience that we have is that the entrepreneurs that we are talking with, they are not in Brazil, our experience, they are not thinking about circular economy. Although we could have some results that could go in this direction, as you said, at the end of life of this equipment, after 2 or 3 remanufacturing process or 3 usage phases, they are thinking, okay, then I have paid everything, I can discharge this equipment, you know. And then we are trying to tell them that if we design in the appropriate way and so on, we could reuse or do something with the equipment at the end of life, but they don't care at that moment, and for us it's still a challenge.
There we are. I fully agree with your comments there. I want to add another dimension, because we're from an education sort of background as well. It's often the fact that people are brought up to think narrowly. Success is focusing down, not expanding the vision. I was told of an example, it's not in the servitization one, but told of an example of a coffee farm, very familiar in Brazil, where they identified all the other possible cash flows, whether it was from growing avocado and banana as shade for this type of coffee, or whether it was running a small cattle operation to provide manure, and then selling the milk. This is a typical example in the circular economy of saying, what have I got in my pallet, on my buffet, that I could make money out of? Yet most business people are incentivized saying, You're in charge of sales for that product, for that moment, whether it's that or whatever. We don't want you thinking outside the box. We want you to sell more of this, because that's your wage, depends on that. And the other challenge when you're thinking out of the box is that you have to get expertise on cattle, in this case, dairy, avocado, banana, when all they were taught, perhaps, was coffee cultivation. So part of the challenge is being able to, in education, zoom out to see the big picture, and then zoom back in to see what it is that is possible in the place you're working. I think this applies to servitization as well, because you're interested in how the picture, how the different parts fit together. And that does require people with different skills than many of, you forgive me, myself, yourself perhaps, who were complimented, who were given rewards for focusing down, not for expanding. If I go to a meeting sometimes, I say, I'm a generalist. And you're all thinking it now. You're thinking, what's he doing in this meeting? Because you're expecting a specialist. I don't say it now, it's so uncomfortable. But I am a generalist, and I'm proud of it. I know something about quite a few things, and I try and put it together. But you can't make a career out of that, really. I made something of a career out of it, but more accident than planning. So this is part of the trouble. If we've got skills we're developing in universities and other places which are not suited to seeing the system and its potential, it's really hard to get change. And then you've got all the legalistic things, the fiscalization and so on. But, and I think, of course, particularly here, the cost of assets is very high. So finance is not orientated around this sort of business model, I imagine.
Thank you. So let's open for the questions.
It's meant for throwing, you don't have to, that's the whole point.
Okay. So you were saying that PSS is not necessarily reducing the impact, both environmental impact and social impact, and I totally agree with that. But thinking about the methodology that Professor Rosenfeld presented now, and thinking about circular economy, and also considering that companies are not having the adequate mindset of circular economy, in which point it would be more relevant and more effective to consider circular economy requirements, for example, or circular economy principles and that methodology, so we can get a result, a PSS, that is more aligned to circular economy principles.
I was thinking about horse manure when you were saying that, and I don't mean it as an insult. When a horse takes a poo in the forest, say, it doesn't arrange for all of the dung beetles to come and deal with it, does it? The system has evolved to make it something that the beetles think, oh yeah, great, let's go for that, and the horse doesn't have to think about that one. So for me, whether it's product service systems or whether it's coffee farms or whatever, it's the enabling conditions. If you can create an environment where people say, I can see the advantage there, I want to do this, they'll do it, because people are motivated if they can, if they can see, yeah, I can make use of that. I'll give you an example from Chile. A colleague of mine is working on testing equipment for plastics that is cheap enough to take at the street level. You know what I mean? Community level, cheap. So people who collect plastics and other things can find out what it is. And if you can find out what it is, you might have a market for it. You might be able to exchange it. This is what she's exploring. In other words, empowering the people who collect plastics to know more about what they've got and to make markets in it. So she's not doing anything which says, oh, let's make sure they go in a training program. She's just saying, I got some nice equipment here. You can test what you've got. I'll show you how to use it. Then you can use it yourself. That's what I mean by something that's got lots of enabling conditions. We're making the, if you like, with the analogy with the horse, we're letting the beetles find the food and do something with it. So I know it's not directly on PSS, but I'm very much for enabling conditions. Like we talked to Intesa San Paolo, they're a bank in Italy, and they're looking at how can we help businesses who are doing product service systems get finance, because we don't really understand enough about it, and we don't know what the proposition is for us as a banker. But we do recognize this is something that's coming. And it's going to take time, because just as the ecosystem evolved, these enabling conditions will take time. And you know what the role of a pioneer is? You know, somebody who goes forward is to find themselves with 3 spears in their back, dead in the mud. You know, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed trying to find out what works. And that's always happened with these sorts of changes. So A, don't be put off by that, but learn from it. Okay, so I wandered around the subject a bit, and I'm sure the professor has more relevant things to say. Nope, you're okay. You're okay with that one. Now you've got to throw that thing, you see, to the next person. Who's going to do next?
Maybe we collect a few questions and then we can have the answers like in a group, please, Merlin.
It's strange, really strange. I was thinking about Aldo in the middle of this table, and the importance you have in making the bridge between these 2 bodies of knowledge. Because for me, I'm more aligned with the left side of the body of knowledge, but for sure understand that the right side of butterfly diagram are all PSS. When you see all these circular technical loopings, we are talking about PSS. And the importance to make an academic bridge between these 2 bodies of knowledge. And I see that you have a huge importance because you dialogue with both bodies of knowledge as well. So I think in your model there are a lot of contribution to the right side of the butterfly diagram already developed. And for sure there are several things from the circular economy perspective that should put in this method. So how you can make this bridge about this mindset, scholar mindset now?
I just would like to make some comments. The colleagues that I have in Europe that works with PSS, they told me nowadays in Europe, since the circular economy now has reached the high level of the companies, most of the calls of the projects that we are applying right now, we have to have circular economy. Then I think it's an important thing that go around our conditions. If we are creating methodologies and approaches that are going to be used, that is a historical process. And then I think that Ellen MacArthur Foundation has a huge importance because they put in the actual agenda this question, and then the politicians, the politic makers, and also the agencies who are supporting or those future research projects, they are calling, we have to include circular economy. And then I think this bridge between the academia and the companies, because of those approach that we see in Europe, we gonna see results in 5 years that the theory, because if you take the theory of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation right now, circular economy, we see not a so good grounded theory behind, you know, we from academia. But why? Because they are selling this for the companies, and that's an important thing. They got this from McKinsey, and McKinsey are very good to sell things. And then I think that's the most important point. We sell this for those guys, and then that's a circular again back to us at the university, because we have this challenge. Because if we don't do something like that to build this bridge, we are not getting money for our research, you know. And then I think that's a very nice way of coming to this point. Right now, it's not well done, but I think that we have this challenge, and our colleagues in Europe, all my colleagues that I have in Europe, they say we are writing projects for circular economy. That's, I think, is a very important way of trying to bring this mindset, because we from the university, we take a look and say, that's sustainability. That's nothing new. I don't agree with that, you know. It's something new. And something new is this composition of giving importance and talking with the I would say the words that the CEOs, the guys who are going to really change this in the private sector, in all the politicians, they think, oh, that's something that I understand. That's something, because when we were talk about sustainability, we are a little bit naive, perhaps, and dreaming. But the same elements right now in circular economy are very well sold, I think. That's my comment, but I don't know. We are.
There was a notice there, I don't know if it was about running out of time. I just want to compliment you on your analysis. This is exactly what we tried to do, which was to communicate a limited message that would appeal to both CEOs and Europe, to enable them to take some form of action. And now the feedback loop I'm interested in is, can the academics help sharpen it up? Can you do the critiques and find the gaps and make it something more grounded? And I think that's an exciting prospect. But we'll both keep doing our separate roles. We'll keep pushing, and you keep straightening us out. Yeah, no, we'll set a path, and you say that bit's wrong. We can fix it this way, or just forget that bit. You know, that's really exciting, actually. I think, because I think there's a story in that about, if you want something done, you have to create a story, even if it's not perfect, that people can accept. They can recognize, in your words. People need to recognize the story of change. I almost look like Donald Trump, don't I? You know, this sort of thing. Too much television. So he hasn't got a story, I really understand. But this is part of the difference between us as an NGO. We're not an academic organization, but we know what we're pushing for. And we need the academic institutions to critique it and consolidate it and push the boundaries of what we've done to make it good science or good policy. So I just wanted to compliment you on that.
And as the question also involves me, well, I think I have to, well, in my opinion, in some communities, they are looking to this, like, maybe new approach, that it's new because integrate a lot of knowledge areas, but in another perspective, and some communities are looking this as a risk, and so they are saying that I'm not doing enough. I have to open my mind. I have to now be systemic. Life cycle assessment, it's not only by the product system itself, but I need to integrate, for instance, other relations, other perspective, and also not only physical relations, but also institutional other relations, and also during the time dimension, not only a photo of the system, but to have an perspective, not in a very short time, but like long terms. And all of this make us a little bit uncomfortable, but we as researchers I think what I'm looking is a lot of opportunities to make this research, because the principles and the way what we are going through, like from in the environmental perspective, as you said, from the end of pipe solutions, then we come to the cleaner and production more specific solution, then we went to the product and design specific, but in the life cycle of the product, and now we are saying, oh, that's not this relation, we need to look abroad and look from the business perspective, and how we link and see this opportunity, like Nayara just said and questioned that, because she is looking for this opportunity. She's looking, there is a lot of possibilities that we can create a methodology like in this depth and very precisely and engineering perspective for this transition for circular economy, including the principles. But the answer, it's among us. We will construct this, we will build this if we want, and if we see value on this, and not really just because of the fundings. Of course it's important, but because if we really believe this, it's meaningful for each of us and meaningful for our area. All right. And we will have only one more question, and then we will finish. Or okay, and then we not finish, but continue in another place.
Yeah. So my name is Janaína. I'm from University of São Paulo, Escola de Engenharia de São Carlos, from the most beautiful city, São Carlos. Anyway, so Ken, this goes to you. The social impact, the social principles that we must have in the circular economy. So if we were thinking about sustainability, we would emphasize the triple bottom line that should be so. Yeah, that's not the truth that everybody goes right to the social, but at least was there very clear. And some company could say, oh, I'm trying to do something in the eco-efficient, but I'm not doing anything on the social perspective. So how the foundation is going to highlight, to emphasize the social perspective, I mean, you know, like in terms of economics, the social aspect should be on the top of our priorities. So how do you see us achieving, you know, like this perspective in a new level to when we are designing, when we are doing everything for developing new circular solutions?
They don't want me to speak. They're trying to stop me. That's a huge bundle of questions, actually, isn't it? I mean, we don't have all day to have a go at that. So I'll make it really quite plain. I'll give you the official story, and I'll give you what might be happening next, and then you can decide yourself whether we're useful or not to you. The official story in the publications we do, like Growth Within and Accelerating, or achieving growth within, the story is this, that a circular economy can give additional value for companies by adopting different business models, and it will be very resource efficient and will lower the costs of access and ownership of different goods and provide services very effectively. In the economic sphere, this will lower their expenditure, and this will enable them to have money to spend on other things that they would prefer to spend on, and this will lead to some increase in economic growth and therefore jobs. That's the official story. That's what you'll find in our documents. So much of the social gain, as described there, comes from additional spending power working through an economy. Now that's a pretty high level thing. At the same time as that's going on, we have to recognize that the economy is changing fundamentally. We tend to have a split between those who are employed in the salary classes, and those who are in part-time, informal economy, and so on, which seem to be growing in number, not getting less. Now, the hopeful thing about the circular economy, if it works well, is that because more waste is being created into food, you know, there's more available stuff to work with. There are more opportunities in the sense that many cities are exploring maker labs. They're exploring, like Phoenix, Arizona, temporary resource banks where materials are placed and made available for the community. Local platform cooperatives about exchange, local currencies about exchange of sectoral currencies, currencies which are focused on a particular material or resource. These are just beginning to bubble up because the circular economy won't provide you straightforward jobs for everybody. It's not going to do that. There are too many other forces in the other direction. But recognizing the principle that if you get a regenerative and accessible and abundant economy of resources, people can, like my beetle analogy, if you like, they can find the advantage in it and then create a thriving economy. Gunter Pauli writes about a lot of this in The Blue Economy, which is essentially a circular economy perspective, but from the more grassroots up. Now, the difficult thing with all this is not yet integrated as an idea. So you have camps of people which are just doing really European style, formal economy, improve the business models, see what happens. And there are other groups of people who are working in more social enterprise who are already doing aspects of this, trying to make resources more available, but could be supported or helped by having more insights about the circular economy and aspects of creating resources as food rather than waste. So the work is yet to be done, and I'm looking at a group of academics to try and bridge the gap between the more formal big business, formal economy side of things and the more the economy which is in fact most of the world, which is more informal, part-time, contingent, gig economy, where resources are much more localized and competition is extremely fierce. So the answer is we haven't bridged that yet. I don't think anybody's bridged it, but Gunter Pauli's had a good go at it for some years, particularly with work in Colombia.
All right. Ok, so muito obrigado pela atenção de vocês, pela presença, e thank you both for this wonderful and fruitful debate, and just the beginning maybe for a very huge opportunities for this community. Thank you all.